welcome back to another show. Today I'm going to talk about The Card Counter, which is a new Paul Schrader film. This will be fairly short. I'm not going into detail. It's a new film. It's a really new film. So I'm not going to go into much detail. I'm not going to do any spoilers. Because it's so new, I don't want to even accidentally any spoilers in this one. But this is another one that's one of my films of the year so far. This is really good. This is a really strong Paul Schrader film. I've seen the reviews it's been compared to his more recent film, First Reformed, and saying First Reformed is better. First Reformed was definitely a terrific film. I like this one slightly better though, but I'm definitely a minority. But both are very strong films. It's like Schrader's definitely coming back to end his career on some highs. He's definitely very motivated to have some. He had a kind of fallow spell where he couldn't get funding for his films, and a few of them didn't go the way he wanted. So he seemed to be very motivated to have a final run of really good, strong films. You know, I wish he could motivate Scorsese in the same way. Really, Scorsese's one of the producers of this film as well, but one of many. But it is about. I'll try and just limit what I'm going to say about it to what you can see in the trailer. It's about a gambler played by Oscar Isaac, who's going around the circuits, and he's quite good at just being a successful gambler who's doing well, and just try to keep himself, try not get noticed by anybody. He wants to basically disappear. He wants to be invisible. He wants to basically be an invisible man to everybody. But of course, people start noticing him, and he does have a past he's not very comfortable about, which. Even the trailer very much told you it's about Abu Ghraib and the torture of Iraqi prisoners, and he was there, so he did some prison time, and that's where he learned how to count cards and be a good gambler. But the film is actually about what do you do with the knowledge of the past that you can't change, and the idea of what a horrible situation did to you, and what it revealed to you about yourself, and how do you deal with that. And the film is really about that kind of angst and typical Schrader film. I mean, if you're going to look at it, it does feel a lot like Light Sleeper, the one Schrader made with Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe's also in this film briefly. So he's been hyped up in the trailers. Willem Dafoe's in it for 5 minutes. He's in it for 5 great minutes, but he's in it for 5 minutes. So do not go into expecting a lot of Willem Dafoe. He's not in the film very often. I think he must have shot this in about 2 days. Like, really, he's in it for specific reasons, but he's not in it for that much. So, just make sure you know that. But it is about the melancholy of having made mistakes and not quite sure how to survive, and trying to help other people as a way to survive your own guilt. So, Oscar Isaac runs into this kid played by Tye Sheridan, who's a kid who's very unmotivated. His father was a guy who was also in the torture things. His father couldn't deal with it and took it out on him and his mother. And it caused this awful trauma, and it becomes a thing about trauma passed down because of these events. And this kid wants revenge on Willem Dafoe because Dafoe was the guy in charge. And Oscar Isaac's trying to talk the kid around and try and get the kid back on gear and go and just live his life rather than try to focus on somebody he can't change. And the film's about the nuance of that, because that shit's an easier film now with a simplistic thing. It's like, come on kid, we're going to get you better. This film shows that's more difficult than you ever imagined. This is just such a difficult thing. And it's like, how do you survive? How do you help someone when you yourself are damaged and you're not dealing with your own trauma? And you've also got him dealing with Tiffany Haddish's character, who's a promoter who actually backs gamblers, and she knows that Oscar Isaac's a good gambler and he can go in tournaments and make a lot of money. So he's into deals with her as well, but he's really kind of doing it to try and deal with the kid, and it's all about the various issues that you can come around to try to help someone when you're not really probably in the right mind to do it. But this is all the first half of the movie. This is just basically the setup of the movie. I'm not going into what happens following it. This is just the stuff you're going to get when you base the first half out of the film. All this stuff's introduced in the first half of the film. And then it's about the process. And it's about the voiceover and you're Oscar Isaac's character explaining how he learned how to gamble, what gambling means to him, what his life means to him, what being invisible means to him. It's all about the process of damage and process of dealing with your damage. And can you, or is the best option just to disappear as much as you can so that you don't affect anyone else? And is that healthy, or is that useless, or what's going on with you? What you're actually aiming for? And is what you're aiming for good for you or other people or not? So it's a very complicated film. It's about the complications of feelings of revenge and complications of feelings of guilt. And it's a film that basically says, no, vengeance isn't the interesting part. It's what's leading to that. It's the emotions leading to vengeance is the interesting part. So Schrader doesn't really have a lot of interest in the mechanics of what vengeance is. It's about what leads to it, what leads to those emotions. And that's what the film is really about. And the developments of that, which of course I'm not going to go into. But that's what you should know going into the film. That's what it's about. And it's a very good film about it. It's really well paced. It takes some interesting divergences that you wouldn't expect. And even when it goes to areas you might expect, it's much more complicated about it, and it's much more honest about how all the difficulties of it all, and it's only never gets into areas you expect just to explore the area more than to say it to be lazy. It's not a lazy film. It's a film based for someone who wants to do some good work. And it's so well acted, and it's really well directed. It's one of Schrader's best directed films. His camera's never in the wrong place. It's very spare. The camera's always where it needs to be. Because Schrader sometimes, because he's a writer, sometimes he tries to show off in ways that don't help his narrative. As a director, that's one of his flaws. But this one, you don't get that. It's almost like as he's got older, he's realised just chuck all that stuff out. They seem to this thing early on. He was very, very good director, and then in the middle period, he seemed to try things, but sometimes it wouldn't work. But now he's back being spare and being focused on what he needs. And the acting's terrific. Oscar Isaac pretty much should win every award. He won't because it's too small a film. They'll never give it to him. But he looks hungry again after doing those Star Wars films and having nothing to do for like him doing that X-Men film and things. It's like he definitely looks like an actor who's motivated again to do some good work after being in less inspiring pieces. And this one he's pretty much on point the whole way through. He knows exactly who his character is. He's very directed, he's very focused. And it's just a multi-layered performance. It's one of those performances where he's always doing something even when he's not doing anything. You always have a feeling of intent even when he seems to be sitting there doing almost nothing. It's that kind of performance. But also when the emotions come up, it's terrific. And his voiceover delivery is wonderful. So it's one of his best performances. It's great. He's wonderful. Tye Sheridan as a kid is actually good. I mean, he's one of those actors who started off strong with the Malick film Tree of Life, and he's been in a lot of films, but he get pushed towards Hollywood with stuff like Ready Player One in the recent X-Men films, where he didn't seem well suited to it. It's almost like he kind of, as an actor, knowing he had the boring parts, and he's trying his best with it, but there's nothing to work with. Like, he seems much more of a character actor who likes to have things to do rather than, sitting there playing a hero. Because this part's a difficult part, actually. I think he's been underrated because he's playing a guy who feels unmotivated. But he's not. He's motivated, but he's motivated in an odd way, and he has to be acted a certain way that doesn't say, hey, look at me all the time. And it's really good. But it is, I think some of the frustrations some people have with this part is because of what the part actually is and how it's written, but it needs to be that way. It's one of those parts where whoever plays this part is pretty much seeding the film to Oscar Isaac. He's not going to have the big cool stuff to go head to head. It's a much quieter part, so it's just he does really well when he's working with someone who's really good, so he understands his place. Tiffany Haddish is good as well. I've heard some people say she wasn't, but I thought she was. But she's playing a character who's the most normal character in the bunch. She's the kind of every person character. She's the one who is understands the real world more than any of these more obsessed characters. So she pops in and pops out and starts to get a connection with the characters, but she's kind of the one who's got one foot in the real world a lot more. So that's kind of interesting because it gives a different energy to those scenes. But the casting's terrific. The four as usual was great. But it's really a four person film though. The other people come in and out, they're all basically cameos. It's really those four actors, and that's it. And it's a terrific film. I would just say, just see it. It's so good. Just see it. But it's definitely worth your time. It's another terrific Schrader film. It's definitely top half of the Schrader canon. Schrader's definitely been very motivated to do some really good work in the late stages of his career. So this is terrific. Go see it. Support Schrader. It's been doing pretty well even in the pandemic, so I'm hoping that will inspire more funding. I've heard he's very good his next film set up, so that's good. So yeah, this is a film I know I'll probably not buy with 3 or 4 times in different formats. Yeah, trouble with Schrader films is they're going in different formats. They take ages to get in those formats, but you can see I definitely was one I'm going to buy a lot. Right, that's me for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you later.